The starship cut through the darkness of space like a silver needle. Inside, Captain Daywan sat in his quarters sweating despite the cool air. He wiped his palms on his uniform for the 10th time in as many minutes. Tomorrow would change everything. Tomorrow he would meet the Veltheran Queen. Earth was dying. A plague had swept across the planet, killing millions. Scientists tried everything, but nothing worked. The sickness spread faster each day. Then the Veltherans made contact. They had the cure, but they wanted something in return. They wanted respect. They wanted Earth to prove it was worthy of their help. That's why Daywan was here. He wasn't a diplomat. He was a ship captain, a soldier. But Earth needed every capable person for this mission. Ambassador Hyun led the delegation, but Daywan commanded the ship. He also had to attend the meetings, smile at the right times, and not mess anything up. Don't touch anything you're not supposed to touch, Hyun had told him during the briefing. Don't speak unless spoken to, and for heaven's sake, don't insult them. Their culture is completely different from ours. Daywan had nodded, memorizing every rule. He knew what was at stake. His sister was sick back on Earth. His nephews, too. If this mission failed, they would die. Billions would die. The ship arrived at Velthera the next morning. The planet was beautiful. Purple oceans stretched beneath 3 moons. Cities of crystal and metal dotted the continents. The Veltherans had been spacefaring for thousands of years while humans were still learning to make fire. When Daywan stepped off the shuttle, the gravity hit him first. Velthera was heavier than Earth. Each step felt like he was carrying extra weight. The air smelled strange too, like copper and flowers mixed together. The Veltherans themselves were stunning. They stood taller than humans, with skin that shimmered in shades of deep blue and purple. Their eyes were large and golden. They moved with grace that made Daywan feel clumsy just watching them. Queen Ara didn't greet them personally. A stern-looking general named Nari met the delegation instead. She looked at the humans like they were insects. "Follow me," she said in perfect English. "Do not wander. Do not touch anything. Our palace contains artifacts older than your civilization." The palace was massive. Halls stretched in every direction. Walls glowed with soft light. Strange plants grew from the ceiling. Daywan tried to memorize the path, but after the 5th turn, he was completely lost. They entered a conference chamber where Veltheran officials waited. Ambassador Hyun began the formal greetings. Daywan stood at attention, trying not to fidget. The meeting dragged on for hours. The Veltherans asked questions about Earth's history, its wars, its values. Hyun answered carefully, knowing each word mattered. During a break, Nari offered to show them the palace gardens. The delegation followed her out of the chamber. They walked through corridors filled with holographic art. Daywan stayed near the back of the group, careful not to bump into anything. That's when he noticed his tablet was missing. He must have left it in the conference room. Panic shot through him. The tablet contained his notes, his sister's picture, personal things. He couldn't lose it. He turned back, trying to retrace his steps. The corridor looked the same as 10 others he'd passed through. He took what he thought was the right turn, then another. The voices of his group faded behind him. After several minutes of walking, Daywan realized he was completely lost. The corridor had changed. The walls here were darker, made of some black stone that absorbed light. He saw a door ahead that looked familiar. Maybe it was the conference room. He pressed the panel. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Steam rolled out. Daywan blinked, confused. This wasn't the conference room. It was some kind of bath chamber. Large pools of luminescent water filled the space. Flower petals floated on the surface. The air smelled sweet and humid, and standing in the center of the nearest pool, completely unclothed, was Queen Ara. Time stopped. The queen was beautiful in a way that made Daywan's brain shut down. Her skin shimmered like starlight on water. Her long hair fell past her shoulders, dark as space itself. She stood frozen, eyes wide with shock. For 3 heartbeats, neither of them moved. Then Ara screamed. It wasn't a frightened scream. It was a scream of pure rage and mortification. Guards burst through hidden doors Daywan hadn't even noticed. Strong hands grabbed him, yanking him backward. His head hit the floor. Someone's knee pressed into his back. "Wait," Daywan gasped. "I'm sorry. I was lost. I thought this was—" "Silence!" General Nari appeared above him, her face twisted with fury. "You dare violate the Queen's sanctuary? You will die for this offense." They dragged him through the corridors. Other Veltharans stared as he passed. Some looked angry. Others looked horrified. Day One's mind raced. What had he done? He'd just been looking for his tablet. He didn't mean to see anything. It was an accident. They threw him into a room and sealed the door. The space was luxurious with soft furniture and a large bed, but Day One knew a prison cell when he saw one. He sat on the floor, head in his hands. What had he done to Earth? The Alliance was destroyed. The cure was gone. Billions would die because he couldn't follow simple directions. Hours passed. Finally, the door opened. Ambassador Hyun entered, looking 20 years older than he had that morning. Day One, he said quietly. We need to talk. I'm sorry, Day One said immediately. I know I ruined everything. I'll accept whatever punishment they want. Just don't let this destroy the Alliance. Hyun sat down heavily. It's complicated. According to Veltharan law, what you did is unforgivable. Seeing the monarch in such a vulnerable state is a crime punishable by death. Day One's blood ran cold. However, Hyun continued, there is one alternative. The Queen can invoke something called the right of bonding. It's an ancient law. If she chooses this option, you would be bound to her in marriage. It would restore her honor and satisfy the law. Marriage? Day One couldn't believe what he was hearing. To the Queen? That's insane. Yes, Hyun agreed, but it's your only chance to survive, and possibly Earth's only chance to get the cure. He stood up. The Queen is deciding now. We'll know her choice by morning. He left Day One alone with his thoughts. Outside the window, Belthara's 3 moons rose into the sky. They were beautiful, but Day One couldn't appreciate them. He could only think about the Queen's face, shocked and furious. He could only think about his sister dying on Earth. He could only think about the impossible choice that would come with dawn. Sleep didn't come that night. Day One paced his cell, wondering if he would live to see another sunrise, wondering if agreeing to marriage would make him a sacrifice or a solution, wondering what the Queen was thinking in her own chambers as she decided the fate of 2 worlds. Queen Ara stood on her private balcony, watching the moons cast shadows across her city. She had not slept. How could she? Her mind was a storm of anger, embarrassment, and something else she didn't want to name. The human had seen her, completely, utterly, in her most sacred moment of ritual purification. The shame burned through her like fire. But worse than the shame was the choice she now faced, death or marriage. Those were the only options the law allowed. And not just any marriage. The right of bonding, a soul-deep connection that would make this clumsy human her equal in all things. The thought made her sick. You're still awake, a voice said behind her. Ara didn't turn. She recognized her younger sister's footsteps. Go away, Yuna. No. Princess Yuna moved to stand beside her sister. She was smaller than Ara, softer in both body and temperament. You need to talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. He violated sacred law. He must die, must he? Yuna asked gently. Or are you just too proud to consider the alternative? Ara's hands clenched on the balcony rail. The right of bonding is sacred. It has never been given to an outsider, certainly never to a human. They're primitives. They've barely left their own planet. They're dying, Yuna said quietly. Their whole world is sick. That's why they came here. That human captain, he has family on Earth. I read his file. A sister, 2 nephews, all infected with the plague. That's not my concern, isn't it? Yuna moved closer. You called for this meeting. You offered to help them. You wanted to build an alliance with Earth because you saw potential in humanity. Or were those just pretty words for the council? Ara said nothing. Her sister was right and she hated it. She had argued passionately for Earth's cause. She had seen something in humans that intrigued her. Their determination. Their refusal to give up even when facing impossible odds. She had wanted to help them. But that was before one of them had stumbled into her bath chamber. The council meets at dawn, Yuna said. General Nari is calling for immediate execution. She says making an example of the human will strengthen our position, show Earth that we cannot be disrespected. Nari is always eager for blood, Ara muttered. Yes, but she's not wrong about the politics. If you show weakness now, the traditionalist faction will use it against you. They already hate your alliance with Earth. Yuna paused. However, if you invoke the right of bonding, you turn an insult into an opportunity. The human becomes Veltharan by law. Earth gets its cure, and you bind their world to ours through marriage. Ara finally turned to look at her sister. You make it sound so simple. It's not simple at all, Yuna admitted. It's terrifying. But sister, you've been alone for so long. Ever since Talvin died, don't. Ara's voice went cold. Don't speak his name. Yuna fell silent. Talvin had been Ara's betrothed, chosen when they were both young. They had loved each other deeply. Then came the border war. Talvin had died in the first battle, and something in Ara had died with him. She had sworn never to bond with anyone again. The throne was enough. The responsibility was enough. But now the law forced her hand. In his cell, Daewon finally gave up on sleep. He sat on the bed staring at nothing. His mind kept replaying the moment the door opened. The queen's face, her beauty, her horror. The door hissed open. Daewon jumped to his feet. A young Veltharan woman entered, carrying a tray of food. She wasn't dressed like a guard. Her robes were simple, almost servant-like. Who are you? Daewon asked. My name is Sora, she said, setting down the tray. I've been assigned as your attendant. My attendant? I'm a prisoner. You're a potential prince, Sora corrected. She looked at him with open curiosity. You're shorter than I expected. Humans are supposed to be warriors, but you look normal. Daewon didn't know whether to be offended. Can you tell me what's happening? Is the queen going to kill me? Sora sat down uninvited. She seemed remarkably casual for someone speaking to a condemned man. That depends. Do you understand what the rite of bonding means? Marriage, Daewon said. Ambassador Hyun explained that part. It's more than marriage. Among my people, bonding is sacred. When two people complete the rite, their life forces connect. They feel each other's emotions when close. They share strength. If one dies, the other feels the loss forever. Sora's voice grew serious. It's not something done lightly. Most Veltharans wait years to find the right partner. Some never bond at all. And the queen is supposed to do this with me? A stranger. Because I accidentally walked through the wrong door? No, Sora said. She would do it to save her honor. To satisfy the law. To save your life and preserve the alliance with Earth. She tilted her head. The question is, would you do it? If given the choice, Daewon sat down slowly. I don't want to die. And Earth needs the cure. My family needs it, but marrying someone who hates me? Living in a place where everyone thinks I'm a criminal? That's not really living. The queen doesn't hate you, Sora said thoughtfully. She's angry, embarrassed, scared, but not hateful. How would you know? Sora smiled. I've served in the palace since childhood. I know her moods. She stood up. Eat. You'll need strength for the council meeting. She left before Daewon could ask what she meant. Dawn came too quickly. Guards arrived to escort Daewon to the council chamber. They had given him fresh clothes at least. Veltharan robes that felt strange on his body. The fabric shimmered as he moved. The council chamber was enormous. Hundreds of Veltharans sat in curved rows, all staring down at him. Ambassador Hyun stood to one side with the rest of Earth's delegation. He looked terrified. At the center of the chamber, on a throne of liquid crystal, sat Queen Ara. She looked even more impressive than Daewon remembered. Her robes were deep purple, edged with silver. A crown of light floated above her head. Her face was unreadable, carved from stone. General Nari stood to address the council. This human has committed the gravest offense. He violated the sanctuary of our queen. Our law is clear. Death is the only acceptable punishment. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. However, Nari continued, her voice dripping with distaste, the queen has the right to invoke the rite of bonding. I personally believe this would be a mistake. It would weaken our position and insult our traditions. But the choice is hers. All eyes turned to Ara. The queen stood slowly. The chamber fell silent. I have considered both paths, she said. Her voice carried to every corner of the room. Death would be simple. It would satisfy the law and send a message to all who would disrespect us. Daewon felt his heart sink. But, Ara continued, it would also destroy the alliance we sought to build. It would doom billions of humans to death from plague. And it would make me a murderer for the sake of pride. She turned to look directly at Daewon. Her golden eyes seemed to see right through him. I invoke the rite of bonding, she declared. This human will become my bound partner. Our marriage will satisfy the law and unite our peoples. The chamber erupted in noise. Some cheered. Others shouted in protest. Daewon couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Ara descended from her throne and walked toward him. When she stood before him, close enough to touch, She spoke in a voice only he could hear. I am doing this for my people and yours. Nothing more. Do not mistake necessity for affection. Daewon met her eyes. He saw anger there, yes, but also loneliness, a deep well of sadness that no crown could fill. I understand, he said quietly. Good. She raised her voice so the council could hear. Let the betrothal ceremony begin. The betrothal ceremony happened the same day. Vel'Thorans didn't believe in waiting once a decision was made. Within hours, the grand hall was prepared. Thousands gathered to witness something that had never happened before in their history. Daewon stood at the altar wearing formal robes that weighed as much as armor. His legs shook, not from the weight of the clothes, but from the weight of what was happening. Behind him, Ambassador Hyun and the Earth delegation watched in stunned silence. Ahead of him, Queen Ara approached in ceremonial dress that made her look like a goddess. The high priest began chanting in ancient Vel'Thoran. Daewon understood none of it. Sora had tried to explain the ceremony that morning, but everything was happening too fast. He caught fragments. Something about souls. Something about binding across the stars. Something about honor restored. Ara stopped before him. Her face showed no emotion. She might have been carved from ice. The priest handed her a circlet made of living crystal. It pulsed with soft blue light. The binding circlet, the priest announced. Once placed, the bond begins. The two shall become aware of each other. Over time, their life forces will synchronize. This is the way of our people. Ara raised the circlet. For a moment, Daewon thought he saw her hand tremble. Then she placed it on his head. Heat rushed through his body. Not painful, but intense, like every nerve was suddenly awake. He gasped. The world tilted, and suddenly he felt something new, an emotion that wasn't his own. Anger, resentment. But underneath, deeper down, fear and sadness so profound it made his chest hurt. He looked at Ara. Her eyes had gone wide. She felt it too. She felt his terror, his guilt, his desperate hope that this would somehow work. For a moment they stood connected by something neither fully understood. Then Ara pulled back and the feeling faded to a distant murmur. The priest declared them officially betrothed. The crowd erupted in mixed reactions. Some cheered. Others remained silent. General Nari looked like she wanted to kill something. That evening, Daewon was moved to new quarters in the royal wing. The rooms were 10 times larger than his cell. Balconies overlooked the city. Servants brought food he didn't recognize. Everything was perfect and cold and lonely. Sora appeared at his door. How are you feeling? Like I'm living someone else's life, Daewon admitted. This morning I was a prisoner. Tonight I'm engaged to a queen who hates me. She doesn't hate you, Sora said again. She seemed fond of repeating this. But she doesn't know you either. That's your opportunity. Opportunity for what? To change her mind. Sora smiled. The queen has been alone for a long time. She's forgotten what it feels like to have a true partner. Show her you're not just some clumsy human. Show her you're worth bonding with. I don't think she wants to see that, Daewon said. Maybe not now. But the binding circlet will bring you together whether you want it or not. Use that time wisely. Meanwhile, in her own chambers, Ara tore off her ceremonial robes and threw them across the room. Yuna watched from the doorway, wisely staying quiet. I felt him, Ara said, her voice shaking. When I placed the circlet, I felt everything. His fear, his guilt. It was like standing in his mind. That's how bonding works, Yuna said gently. I know how it works, Ara snapped. Then she sat down heavily. I didn't expect it to be so intense, so immediate. The bond will grow stronger, Yuna warned. Within weeks, you'll be able to sense each other from across the palace. Within months, you'll share dreams. This is what you agreed to. For my people, for the Alliance. Yes, Yuna agreed. But sister, would it be so terrible if you also did it for yourself? You've been mourning Talvin for 7 years. Maybe it's time to let someone else in. Talvin was Vel'Thoran, Ara said coldly. He understood our ways. He was my equal. This human is what? Brave enough to accept this marriage even though it terrifies him? Humble enough to admit his mistakes? From what I saw today, he's more honorable than half our council. Ara said nothing. She couldn't argue, and that made her even angrier. The next morning, Earth received the news. Daewon's face was on every screen across the planet. Some called him a hero. Others made jokes. Social media exploded with memes about the man who accidentally proposed to an alien queen in the worst way possible. His sister sent him a video message. She looked thin and tired from the plague, but she was smiling. Day one, you idiot. Only you could start an intergalactic marriage this way. But you're doing it for us. For Earth, I'm proud of you. She coughed, covering her mouth. Get us that cure, big brother. And try not to mess up your wedding. Daewon watched the message 3 times, tears running down his face. Formal dinners became routine. Every night, Daewon sat beside Ara at a long table, surrounded by Veltharan nobles who regarded him like a curious insect. Ara barely spoke to him. She would answer questions with 1 or 2 words, then return to conversations in her own language. But Daewon noticed things. The way she always made sure his glass was full. The way she positioned herself between him and General Nari, who glared at him constantly. Small gestures that suggested she might not hate him quite as much as she claimed. 2 weeks into the engagement, everything changed. They were attending a formal state dinner celebrating the alliance. Hundreds of Veltharan nobles filled the hall. Earth's delegation sat at the high table. Ambassador Hyun was giving a speech about unity and cooperation. Daewon felt the binding circlet pulse against his forehead. Suddenly, through the bond, he felt something from Ara. Sharp alarm. He turned to look at her. Her eyes were scanning the crowd, her body tense. Something was wrong. He followed her gaze and saw them. 3 servers moving through the crowd, but their movements were wrong. Too purposeful. Too focused on the high table. Daewon's military training kicked in. He recognized an attack pattern when he saw one. Ara, he said quietly. 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. They're not servers. She looked at him sharply. How do you— The first assassin moved. A plasma weapon appeared from under their serving tray. The shot streaked toward the high table. Toward Ara. Daewon didn't think. He threw himself sideways, colliding with the queen and knocking her from her chair. The plasma bolt hit the wall behind them, scorching stone. Chaos erupted. Guards rushed forward. The 3 assassins opened fire. Nobles screamed and scattered. Daewon covered Ara's body with his own, feeling plasma heat wash over them. Return fire came from the royal guards. 2 assassins fell immediately. The 3rd managed 1 more shot before being cut down. That shot hit Daewon in the shoulder. Pain exploded through his body. He cried out, rolling off Ara. She sat up, eyes wide with shock. Then she gasped, clutching her own shoulder. Through the bond, she had felt his pain. Daewon. She crawled to him, pressing her hands against the wound. Purple blood mixed with red. Guards, get a medic now! The last thing Daewon saw before darkness took him was Ara's face above his. For the first time since they met, she looked at him with something other than anger. She looked terrified. He woke in the medical bay. His shoulder was bandaged and throbbing. Next to his bed sat Ara, still in her formal dress, now stained with his blood. You're awake? She said. You're here, he replied, surprised. Where else would I be? You took a plasma bolt for me. You're the queen. It's my job to protect you now, right? Ara shook her head slowly. You're the most frustrating human I've ever met. You could have died, but you didn't, Daewon said. He tried to sit up and winced. That's what matters. Through the bond, still new and raw, he felt her emotions crack. The anger fell away. What remained was confusion and something that might have been gratitude. The assassins were from the traditionalist faction, she said quietly. They believe I've betrayed our people by bonding with you. General Nari is hunting the rest of their cell. Will there be more attacks? Probably. You've made powerful enemies simply by existing. Daewon laughed, then regretted it as pain shot through his shoulder. Story of my life. Ara reached out and took his hand. The gesture surprised them both. Thank you, she said, for what you did today. You're welcome. They sat in silence, hands connected, the bond between them humming with newfound warmth. Neither of them noticed Sora watching from the doorway, smiling. Recovery took 2 weeks. Veltharan medicine was remarkable. The wound that should have taken months to heal closed in days. But Daewon's shoulder still ached, and the doctors insisted on rest. What surprised him most wasn't the healing. It was the visits. Ara came every day. At first she claimed it was duty. A queen checking on her betrothed after he'd been injured, protecting her. But duty visits didn't last 3 hours. They didn't involve long conversations about Earth's history or Veltharan poetry. They didn't include her bringing books from her personal library for him to read. This one is my favorite, she said one afternoon, handing him a thin volume bound in something that looked like silk but felt like water. It's about the first bonding ceremony thousands of years ago, before we had technology or ships, when we were still learning to understand each other. Daewon tried to read the Veltharan script and failed completely. I can't read your language. Oh. Ara looked embarrassed. I forgot. Here. She took the book back and began reading aloud, translating as she went. Her voice was beautiful when she wasn't angry. It rose and fell like music. Daewon found himself watching her face more than listening to the words. She became animated when reading, her hands moving to emphasize parts she loved. Through the bond, he felt her joy in the story. It was like sunlight after a storm. When she finished, she looked up and caught him staring. What? Nothing, he said quickly. The story was good. She studied him for a moment. Through the bond, he knew she felt his lie. But she didn't call him on it. Instead, she said, Tell me about your family. Your sister, the one who's sick, so he did. He told her about growing up with his sister, how they'd explored the hills near their home, how she'd always been the brave one, climbing higher, running faster, how she'd cried when he left to join the space program, how she'd sent him a message every week without fail even after she got sick. She sounds strong, Ara said softly. She is. She's the strongest person I know. The cure will reach Earth soon, Ara told him. Our medical ships left 3 days ago. Within a month, the plague will be defeated. Relief flooded through Daewon so powerfully that Ara gasped, feeling it through their connection. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you. She reached out and squeezed his hand. This time, it didn't seem to surprise either of them. Princess Yuna noticed the change immediately. She burst into Sora's quarters one evening, grinning like a fool. They're falling for each other. Sora looked up from the report she was reading. I told you they would. Yes, but it's happening faster than I expected. We should help things along. Your Highness, I'm not sure interfering is wise. Nonsense. They both need a push. They're too proud to admit what they're feeling. Yuna pulled out a data pad. I've made a list of events where they'll have to spend time together. Traditional festivals, cultural ceremonies, a hunt in the crystal forests. Sora raised an eyebrow. A hunt? The human is barely recovered from being shot. That's perfect. Ara will have to help him. Nothing brings people together like shared struggle. Despite her reservations, Sora found herself helping with the planning. She'd served the royal family her whole life. She'd watched Ara close herself off after Talvin's death, becoming colder each year. If this strange human could bring warmth back to the Queen's life, Sora would help however she could. The Festival of Lights came first. It was a celebration of Velthara's founding, where thousands of floating lanterns were released into the night sky. Ara and Daewon were expected to attend together to release the royal lantern before everyone else. Daewon dressed in formal robes that Sora had prepared. They were deep blue, embroidered with silver thread that mimicked Earth's constellations. A gift from the Queen, Sora explained. She designed them herself. He found Ara waiting in the palace courtyard. She wore white robes that seemed to glow in the twilight. Her hair was adorned with crystals that caught the light. You look beautiful, he said without thinking. She blinked, surprised. Through the bond, he felt a flutter of pleasure before she hid it. You clean up adequately for a human. They walked together to the festival grounds. Thousands of Veltharans had gathered. When Ara and Daewon appeared, the crowd cheered. Not everyone was happy about the marriage, but the assassination attempt had swayed public opinion. The human had protected their queen. That meant something. They climbed the ceremonial platform. Ara picked up the royal lantern, larger and more ornate than the others. We release it together, she told him. Hold here. He placed his hands next to hers on the lantern frame. The warmth of her skin against his was distracting. The lantern began to glow, responding to their combined touch. On 3, she said. 1, 2, 3, they released it together. The lantern rose into the air, leading thousands of others that followed. The night sky filled with lights like stars being born. The crowd cheered and began releasing their own lanterns. It's beautiful, Daewon breathed. Yes, Ara agreed. But when he looked at her, she was watching him instead of the sky. The hunt came a week later. Yuna had insisted it was tradition for betrothed couples to hunt together in the crystal forests. Sora had quietly confirmed there was no such tradition, but Ara agreed anyway. They set out at dawn with a small escort of guards. The crystal forests were unlike anything Daewon had seen. Trees made of living crystal grew hundreds of feet tall, refracting sunlight into rainbows. The ground was soft moss that glowed when stepped on. "We're hunting ral beasts," Ara explained. "They're about the size of earth deer, but faster. And they can turn invisible." "Of course they can," Day-One muttered. She smiled. Actually smiled. "Scared, human?" "Terrified. But I'm not going to admit that. I can feel it through the bond. You can't lie to me anymore." "That's going to make marriage interesting." The word marriage hung between them for a moment. They'd both been avoiding thinking about the actual wedding, focusing on the betrothal period instead. But eventually they would have to complete the ceremony. They tracked a rail beast for an hour. Ara moved through the forest like a ghost, silent and sure. Day-One tried to copy her movements but kept stepping on things that crunched. She found this amusing, which made him both embarrassed and happy. They found the beast near a crystal stream. It was drinking, its body shimmering between visibility and invisibility. Ara readied her bow, a weapon that looked like it was made from liquid light. "I'll take the shot," she whispered. "You watch for others." Ral beasts travel in pairs. She drew and fired in one smooth motion. The arrow flew true. The beast fell without suffering. But Day-One was already turning, sensing movement behind them. The second Ral beast appeared from nothing, charging directly at Ara's unprotected back. Its antlers were sharp as swords. Day-One tackled Ara sideways. They fell together, rolling down a shallow slope. The beast thundered past where they'd been standing. Guards rushed forward, bringing it down with spears. Ara and Day-One lay in the moss, breathing hard. She was on top of him, eyes wide. Through the bond, he felt her heart racing. Or was that his heart? He couldn't tell anymore. "You saved me again," she said quietly. "I'm making a habit of it. This habit is going to give me nightmares. Better nightmares than funerals." She laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was like bells. Then she seemed to realize their position and quickly stood, brushing moss from her robes. "We should head back." But as they walked back to the palace, she stayed close to him. Their hands brushed occasionally. Neither pulled away. That night, Day-One couldn't sleep. His mind was full of Ara's laugh, her smile, the way she'd looked at him in the moss. He'd come to Velthara expecting death. Instead, he was falling for an alien queen who was supposed to hate him. He felt a pulse through the bond. She was awake too. He focused on the feeling, trying to send warmth and comfort back to her. A moment later, his door opened. Ara stood there in simple sleeping robes, her hair loose around her shoulders. "Can't sleep either?" she asked. "No." She came inside, closing the door behind her. "The bond is getting stronger. I can feel your emotions clearly now. Your thoughts are starting to leak through. Is that bad?" "I don't know." She sat on his couch, looking lost. "I swore I would never bond with anyone after Talvin died. The pain of losing him nearly destroyed me. I promised myself I would stay alone. Stay safe." Day-One sat beside her, careful to leave space between them. "Tell me about him," so she did. She told him about Talvin's kindness, his strength, how they'd planned to rule together, how the war had taken him suddenly, violently, how she'd felt the moment he died even though he was light years away. "I'm terrified of feeling that again," she whispered, "of letting someone in and then losing them." "I can't promise I won't die," Day-One said honestly. "Especially with assassins trying to kill us. But I can promise I'll fight to stay alive. For you, for us." She turned to look at him. "When did you stop being just a duty?" "I don't know." "When did you stop hating me?" "I never hated you. I was just—" She trailed off. "Scared?" "Yes." They sat in silence, the bond humming between them. Finally, Ara stood. "I should go." "Wait," Day-One stood too. "Ara, I know this started as an accident. A disaster. But it's becoming something real for me. I need you to know that." Through the bond, she felt his sincerity, his growing love. She closed her eyes against the intensity of it. "Good night, Day-One," she said softly. Then she left. But as she walked back to her chambers, she touched her chest. The message arrived 3 weeks into the betrothal. Day-One was in his quarters, reviewing Veltharan language lessons with Sora, when his communication device buzzed with an urgent signal from Earth. Ambassador Hyun's face appeared on the screen, and Day-One knew immediately that something was wrong. The ambassador looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. "Day-One, we have a problem. A serious problem." "What happened?" "The plague is mutating. Faster than we expected. The medical ships from Velthara won't arrive for another 2 weeks, and our scientists are saying we don't have 2 weeks. The new strain is killing people in days instead of months. Hyun's voice cracked. We're looking at billions of deaths, maybe more. Cold dread filled Daewon's stomach. My sister? I'm sorry. She's deteriorating rapidly. The hospitals are overwhelmed. We need the cure now, Daewon. Not in 2 weeks now. After the call ended, Daewon sat in silence. Sora had quietly left, giving him space. He thought about his sister, about her children, about the billions of people whose only crime was being born on a planet that got sick. He reached out through the bond, hoping to find comfort in Ara's presence. Instead, he felt nothing. She'd learned to block him when she wanted privacy. He was alone with his fear. That evening, he tried to speak with Ara at dinner. She was surrounded by advisors, including General Nari, who still looked at him like an insect she wanted to crush. Ara, he said during a break in conversation, I need to talk to you about Earth. It's urgent. Not now, she said without looking at him. We're discussing important matters. This is important. People are dying. People are always dying somewhere, General Nari interjected coldly. That's the nature of life. Daewon felt anger rise in his chest. Easy to say when it's not your people. Nari stood abruptly. How dare you address me with that tone? You're here on sufferance, human. Remember your place. My place. Daewon stood as well. My place is as betrothed to your queen. That makes me royalty too, doesn't it? The room went silent. Ara finally looked at him, her eyes unreadable. Through the bond, he felt her irritation at being challenged, her embarrassment at the scene he was making. We will discuss this later, she said firmly. In private, but later never came. Ara avoided him for the next 2 days, claiming urgent council business. Daewon spent the time pacing his quarters, checking his communicator obsessively for news from Earth. Each update was worse than the last. Death toll rising. Hospitals failing, cities going into lockdown. His sister was moved to intensive care. She sent him a video message, her face pale and thin. Don't worry about me, big brother. Just do what you need to do. I love you. On the 3rd day, Daewon finally cornered Ara in the palace gardens. She was walking alone, which was rare. He suspected she'd blocked her guards on purpose, knowing he would find her. We need to talk, he said. I know what you want, she replied without stopping. You want me to expedite the medical aid. Send the cure now instead of waiting for the formal alliance ceremony? Yes, exactly that. She finally stopped and turned to face him. I can't do that, and why not? You have the cure. You have the ships. What's stopping you? Politics, she said bluntly. The council is divided. Half of them want to help Earth unconditionally. The other half, led by Nari, believes we should use this crisis to our advantage. Advantage? People are dying. I know. Her voice rose, surprising them both. I know people are dying. But if I send the cure now, before the marriage is complete, the traditionalist faction will claim I'm weak. They'll say I'm being manipulated by my human betrothed. They might even try to remove me from power. So it's about your throne, Daewon said bitterly. Your position. It's about keeping the peace on my own planet, she shot back. If I fall, the next ruler might cancel the alliance entirely. Then Earth gets nothing. Is that what you want? They stood facing each other, both breathing hard. Through the bond, Daewon felt her genuine anguish. She wasn't being cruel. She was trapped between 2 impossible choices. But his people were dying now. I thought you were different, he said quietly. I thought you actually cared. I do care, she insisted. But I have responsibilities beyond my personal feelings. I have to think about my entire civilization, and I have to think about mine. He turned and walked away. Behind him, he felt her reaching out through the bond, trying to make him understand. He blocked her the way she'd blocked him. It hurt more than he expected. That night, Daewon contacted Ambassador Hyun. Get me an audience with the Veltharan Council. Official. Tomorrow, if possible. Daewon, what are you planning? Something stupid. Something that might work. Just get me the audience. Hyun hesitated, then nodded. I'll try. The audience was granted for the next morning. When Daewon entered the council chamber, every seat was full. Word had spread that the human betrothed was making some kind of announcement. Even Ara was there, sitting on her throne, her face carefully neutral. Daewon stood in the center of the chamber, feeling hundreds of eyes on him. His heart pounded. Through the bond, he felt Ara's confusion and concern. She had no idea what he was about to do. He took a deep breath and began. Honored council members, I stand before you today not as a diplomat, but as a man who has made many mistakes. My first mistake was walking through the wrong door and seeing your queen in private. That mistake brought me here and created this complicated situation we're all dealing with. Some council members nodded, others remained stone-faced. But I've made other mistakes too. I've assumed things about your culture. I've judged your decisions without understanding your position. And I've let my emotions cloud my judgment. He paused. However, there's one thing I haven't been mistaken about. Your queen is a remarkable person. She's strong, wise, and genuinely cares about doing what's right. He saw Era shift in her throne, uncomfortable with the praise. Which is why I'm making you this offer. Day One continued. Send the medical cure to Earth now, immediately. In exchange, I will remain here as your permanent hostage. I'll complete the marriage ceremony to satisfy your laws and honor your traditions. But I'll give up any claim to freedom or power. I'll be whatever you need me to be. A prisoner, a servant, a political tool. Just save my people. The chamber erupted in noise. Shocked conversations broke out everywhere. General Nari stood, her face twisted in disgust. This is manipulation. He's trying to guilt us into silence. Ara's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. She stood from her throne, descending the steps slowly. The chamber fell quiet. She walked to Day One and stood before him. Through the bond, he felt a storm of emotions. Anger, surprise, respect. Something deeper that she wouldn't name. You foolish human, she said softly, only for him to hear. You would give up everything? For my people? Yes, for my sister. Absolutely. She closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them again, they glistened with unshed tears. You shame me with your courage. She turned to address the council. This human has shown more honor than many in this chamber. He's willing to sacrifice himself completely for those he loves. How can we, who claim to be advanced and enlightened, do any less? Your Majesty, General Nari protested. The political implications. Damn the political implications. Ara's voice echoed through the chamber. When did we become so obsessed with power that we forgot compassion? We have the cure. They need it. That should be enough. She looked around at the assembled council members. But I understand your concerns. You worry about appearing weak, about setting precedents. So I propose a compromise. The council leaned forward, listening. We send the cure immediately to Earth as this human has requested. In exchange, the marriage ceremony will be moved up. We complete the bonding ritual within 1 week instead of waiting the traditional month. The alliance becomes official, permanent, and binding. Earth gets what it needs, and we get the security of a completed alliance. And what of his offer to become a hostage? Asked one council member. He already is one, Ara said simply. The moment I placed the binding circlet on his head, he became bound to me and to Velthara. He cannot leave even if he wanted to. The bond won't allow it. She turned back to Day One. You didn't know that, did you? He shook his head, stunned. So you see, Ara addressed the council, his sacrifice was already made. He just didn't realize it yet. Her voice softened. But the fact that he was willing to offer even more, that tells me everything I need to know about the human heart. The council voted. It took an hour of debate, but eventually they agreed. The cure would be sent to Earth immediately. The marriage would happen in 7 days. After the vote, as the council chamber emptied, Ara approached Day One. They stood in the vast space, suddenly alone. Why didn't you tell me you were going to do that? She asked. Would you have let me? No, definitely not. She studied his face. You're either the bravest person I've ever met or the most foolish. Can I be both? Despite everything, she laughed. Then her expression grew serious. I'm sorry I couldn't help you sooner. I'm sorry I made you feel like I didn't care. I understand now, he said. You were trying to protect your people, just like I was trying to protect mine. We make a complicated pair. We make a pair, he corrected. That's what matters. The week passed too quickly and too slowly at the same time. Day One found himself pulled in dozens of directions. Wedding preparations, cultural lessons, formal meetings with nobles who wanted to assess the human who would become their prince. But on the 5th day, General Nari requested a private meeting with the council. Day One wasn't invited. Neither was Ara. That made them both nervous. The meeting lasted 3 hours. When it ended, Nari came directly to Day One's quarters with half the council behind her. Captain Day One, she said formally, the council has made a decision regarding your upcoming marriage to Queen Ara. Dread filled his stomach. What kind of decision? While we acknowledge your bravery and the necessity of the alliance, some council members remain unconvinced that a human is truly worthy of bonding with our queen. Nari's expression was unreadable. Therefore, we invoked the ancient rite of trial by ascension. Sora, who had been helping Daewon with wedding preparations, gasped. No, you can't. That trial is legal and binding, Nari interrupted. The trial of ascension has been part of our law for thousands of years. Any who question a royal bonding may invoke it. The challenged party must prove their worthiness through 3 trials. Success means the marriage proceeds. Failure means it is annulled. What happens if he fails? Sora asked, though her tone suggested she already knew. Then Earth's alliance becomes a standard treaty instead of a bonding alliance. They keep the cure but lose the deeper connection. And the human returns to his own world. Daewon looked at the assembled council members. Some looked uncomfortable. Others, like Nari, seemed satisfied. Do I have a choice? No, Nari said simply. The trial has been invoked. You will face it tomorrow at dawn in the arena of convergence. All of Velthara will watch. After they left, Sora explained what the trial actually meant. It's meant to test everything about a person, mind, body, and spirit. The challenges change based on who's being tested, but they're always designed to push you to your absolute limit. Has anyone ever died doing this? Sora hesitated. Yes, several, but that was centuries ago. The trials have become more controlled since then. That's not very comforting. I'm sorry. I should warn the queen. No. Daewon stood up. I'll tell her myself. He found Ara in her study reviewing documents. When he explained what happened, she went pale. Those fools, she hissed. Nari orchestrated this. She's been against our marriage from the start. She stood pacing angrily. I can override the council's decision. As queen, I have that right. But you won't, Daewon said. Because if you do, it will look like you're protecting me. Like I can't stand on my own. She stopped pacing. Through the bond, he felt her fear for him. The trial of ascension is dangerous. Even Veltharan warriors have failed it. Then I'll have to be better than them. This isn't a joke, Daewon. I know. He took her hands. But think about what happens if I refuse or if you cancel it. The traditionalists will always say I'm not worthy, that I trapped you through accident rather than merit. Our marriage will be questioned forever. I don't care what they say, but I do. Ara, I want to marry you because we choose it, not because we're forced into it by politics or law. He squeezed her hands. Let me prove I'm worthy. Not just to them, but to you. To myself. She searched his face for a long moment. Then through the bond, she let him feel what she'd been hiding. Her growing love for him. Her terror at the thought of losing him. Her pride in his courage. You're already worthy, she whispered. You've always been worthy. Then let me show everyone else. The arena of convergence was enormous. Circular, open to the sky, capable of holding hundreds of thousands of spectators. When Daewon entered the next morning, every seat was filled. Veltharans had come from across the planet to watch. Above, in a royal box, Ara sat with Yuna and the council. Through the bond, he felt her anxiety. He sent back confidence he didn't entirely feel. The high priest stepped forward to explain the trial. The challenged will face 3 tests. The trial of mind, the trial of body, the trial of spirit. Each is designed to reveal the true nature of the individual. Success requires passing all 3. Failure in any means failure of the whole. The arena floor began to shift. Technology and what looked like magic combined to create the first trial space. Walls rose from the ground, forming a maze. But not a normal maze. The walls were translucent, showing images inside them. Memories, nightmares. The trial of mind, the priest announced. Enter the maze and find the center. But beware, the maze knows your fears. It will use them against you. Daewon stepped forward. The moment he entered the maze, the walls came alive. He saw his crew. The ones who had died under his command 3 years ago. The mission that had gone wrong, leaving him as the sole survivor. They stared at him with accusing eyes. You let us die, they whispered. Daewon forced himself to walk forward. You're not real. This is the maze playing tricks. But the images followed him. His crew became his family. His sister thin and dying. You abandoned us. You left Earth to save yourself. That's not true, he said through gritted teeth. I came here to save you, to get the cure. But you fell in love with her instead. The alien queen. You forgot about us. The accusation hit him like a physical blow. Was it true? Had he forgotten his mission? Had he become distracted by Aura? No, he'd fought for Earth. He'd offered himself as a hostage. He'd done everything possible to save his people. But a small voice whispered that he'd also been happy here. Happy in a way he'd never been on Earth. Was that selfish? The maze twisted around him. More images appeared. Era laughing as she told him she'd been using him all along. The Council mocking him for believing an alien could love a human. Earth destroyed by plague because he'd failed. Each image hurt. Each one pulled at his deepest insecurities and fears. But Daewon kept walking. He focused on what he knew was real. Aura's hand in his, her genuine emotions through the bond, the proof that Earth was already being saved. The maze couldn't fake those things. It could only show him what he feared, not what was true. He reached the center and found a crystal pillar. When he touched it, the maze dissolved. He was back in the arena, breathing hard, covered in sweat. The crowd was silent. Then applause began, scattered at first, then building. He'd passed the first trial. The arena shifted again. The maze disappeared, replaced by an open combat circle. Across from Daewon, a warrior appeared, tall, muscular, carrying weapons that crackled with energy. The trial of body, the priest announced. Combat against our champion. You need not kill your opponent. You must simply prove you can stand against them. The warrior was massive, easily twice Daewon's size, and clearly experienced. Daewon had military training, but that was in human combat. This was something else entirely. The warrior attacked immediately. Daewon barely dodged. A blast of energy scorched the ground where he'd been standing. He rolled, came up running, trying to get space to think. But the warrior was faster. Another blast caught Daewon's leg, sending him tumbling. Pain shot through him. The crowd gasped. In the royal box, Aura half stood, her hands clenched on the railing. Yuna held her back from jumping into the arena. Daewon struggled to his feet. His leg burned but held. He couldn't match the warrior in strength or technology, but humans had survived on Earth by being clever, by adapting, by using what they had. What did he have? Speed, smaller size, and the warrior's overconfidence. The next time the warrior attacked, Daewon didn't dodge away. He dodged forward, getting inside the warrior's reach where the energy weapons couldn't target him. He struck at joints, weak points, places where even Velthor and armor had gaps. The warrior stumbled, surprised. Daewon pressed the advantage. He wasn't trying to win in a traditional sense. He was trying to prove he could adapt, could survive, could hold his own. They fought for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. Daewon took more hits. His body screamed in pain. But he kept getting up, kept fighting, kept adapting. Finally, the warrior stepped back and lowered his weapons. Enough, he said, breathing hard. You have proven yourself, human. The crowd erupted in cheers. Some were cheering for the spectacle. Others, Daewon thought, might actually be cheering for him. He limped to the center of the arena as medical drones appeared to treat his wounds. 2 trials down, 1 to go. The arena became still. All the technology, all the projections disappeared. What remained was just empty space and silence. The trial of spirit, the priest announced. Speak your deepest truth before the ancestors and the assembly. Hold nothing back. Any lie, any omission, and you fail. A column of light appeared. Daewon was directed to stand within it. He knew this was different from the other trials. This wasn't about fighting or solving. This was about being completely, utterly honest. The light intensified. He felt it searching him, reading him, seeing into parts of himself he usually kept hidden. Speak, the priest commanded. Daewon took a breath. He looked up at the royal box where Aura watched. Through the bond, he felt her encouraging him. My name is Daewon, he began. I came to Velthara as part of a delegation. I wasn't special. I wasn't chosen for any great destiny. I was just a ship captain who'd made mistakes in his past and was trying to do better. His voice echoed in the silent arena. When I walked through that door and saw Queen Aura, I was terrified. Not just of being caught, but of how beautiful she was, how powerful, how completely out of my league. So Aura reached Daewon before the medical team could. She threw her arms around him, not caring that he was bleeding and bruised, not caring that billions were watching across both their worlds. You foolish, wonderful, infuriating human, she said against his chest. He wrapped his arms around her, wincing at his injuries but not letting go. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Both. Always both with you. She pulled back to look at his face. Through the bond, everything she felt poured through. Love, pride, relief, fear that she'd almost lost him. "I passed?" he asked. "You more than passed, you." She struggled for words. "You showed them what I've been seeing, what I've been trying not to admit." "What's that?" "That you're extraordinary, and that I love you too." The crowd's cheering somehow got louder. Yuna was jumping up and down in the royal box. Even General Nari looked grudgingly impressed. The medical team finally convinced Ara to let them treat Daewon's wounds. As they worked, the High Priest made the official announcement. "The trial of ascension is complete. Captain Daewon has proven his worthiness before the ancestors and the people. The bonding ceremony will proceed as planned." That night, after the celebrations died down and Daewon was properly healed, he and Ara found themselves alone in the palace gardens. They sat by a fountain that sang with crystalline water. "I have something to confess," Ara said quietly. "After today, I think we're past the point of secrets," she smiled. "True, but I want you to know. When Nari invoked the trial, I was furious. I wanted to cancel it immediately, but Yuna convinced me to let it happen." "Your sister?" "Why, she said you needed to prove yourself. Not to me, but to you. That you'd always wonder if you were truly worthy unless you faced the challenge." Ara took his hand. "She was right. Watching you today, seeing your courage, your honesty, I've never been more certain of anything in my life." "Certain of what?" "That this marriage isn't political anymore. It's not about alliances or treaties. It's about us. Two people who found each other in the strangest way possible and decided to build something real." Daewon lifted her hand and kissed it. "No regrets?" "So many regrets," she said, laughing. "I regret that my bathing chamber door was unlocked. I regret being so cold to you at first. I regret all the time we wasted fighting what we felt. We had to get here somehow, I suppose. But from now on, can we take the easier path? The one without assassins and trials and life-threatening drama? I'll do my best." They sat in comfortable silence, hands intertwined, the bond between them strong and warm and right. News from Earth brought more good news. The cure was working beyond expectations. The plague was in full retreat. Daewon's sister sent him a video call, healthy and smiling, her children playing in the background. "You're really doing this?" she asked. "Marrying an alien queen?" "I really am." "Good, she better treat you right, or I'm flying to Velthara to have words with her." Ara, sitting beside Daewon during the call, leaned into view. "I promise to take very good care of your brother." His sister's eyes widened. "Oh, you're beautiful, and kind of terrifying. I approve." The wedding was planned for the day after next. The entire planet prepared for the celebration. Veltharans and humans worked together on decorations, food, entertainment. What had started as a political necessity had become a genuine celebration of unity. The night before the wedding, tradition dictated that Ara and Daewon spend the time apart. Ara stayed in the royal wing with Yuna. Daewon stayed in his quarters with Sora, helping him prepare. "Nervous?" Sora asked as she laid out his ceremonial robes. "Terrified. But the good kind of terrified. You know, when you first arrived, I thought you were just another clumsy human. I never imagined you'd actually win the Queen's heart." "Neither did I. Pretty sure the Queen didn't imagine it either." Sora smiled. "She's been different since you came, lighter, happier. You're good for her. I hope I can keep being good for her." "That's a lot of pressure." "Then don't think of her as a queen. Think of her as Ara, the woman you love. That's who you're marrying tomorrow." Meanwhile, in the royal chambers, Yuna was having a similar conversation with her sister. "Are you ready?" Yuna asked. Ara looked at herself in the mirror. Her wedding robes were magnificent, woven with threads that seemed to capture starlight. "I'm ready. For the first time since Talven died, I'm actually ready to let someone in. Talven would approve, you know. He never wanted you to be alone forever." "I know. I think I finally understand that loving Daewon doesn't mean I love Talven any less. The heart is big enough for both." Yuna hugged her sister. "I'm so happy for you." The wedding day dawned clear and perfect. Velthara's 3 moons were still visible in the morning sky, considered a lucky omen. The ceremony would take place in the Grand Temple, broadcast across both worlds. Daewon stood at the altar, wearing robes that combined Veltharan design with earth elements. Blue fabric embedded with silver threads that formed patterns of both worlds. His heart pounded as he waited, the temple filled with guests. Veltharan nobles sat alongside human diplomats. General Nari was there, looking less hostile than usual. Ambassador Hyun smiled proudly. In the front row, a holographic projection showed Daewon's sister and her family watching from Earth. Music began. Not Veltharan or human, but something new, a blend that represented what they were creating together. Then Ara appeared at the entrance. Daewon forgot how to breathe. She wore white robes that flowed like water, adorned with crystals that caught the light and made her seem to glow. Her hair was styled in traditional Veltharan fashion, but woven with flowers from Earth that had been specially transported for the occasion. She looked like a dream. She walked down the aisle alone. No one gave her away because she belonged to no one but herself. That was the Veltharan way. She came to Daewon by choice, and that made it more powerful than any tradition. When she reached him, she smiled. Through the bond, he felt her joy, her nervousness, her absolute certainty that this was right. The high priest began the ceremony. We gather to witness the completion of a bond that began in chaos and grew into something beautiful. Two people from different worlds joining to become one. The priest guided them through the traditional vows. Some were in Veltharan, some in English. Ara and Daewon had written parts together, blending their cultures. I, Ara, Queen of Velthara, take you, Daewon of Earth, as my bonded partner. I promise to stand with you in times of peace and war, to share my strength when you are weak, and accept your strength when I falter, to love you not in spite of our differences, but because of them. I, Daewon, Captain of Earth, take you, Ara, as my bonded partner. I promise to honor you not just as my queen, but as my equal, to support your dreams and share your burdens, to make you laugh even when you don't want to, and to hold you when laughter isn't enough, to love you today, tomorrow, and all the days that follow. The priest brought forward the completed binding circlets. They were more elaborate than the simple one from the betrothal, embedded with crystals from both worlds. These circlets will complete your bond. Your minds will truly merge. Your souls will intertwine. You will become two halves of one whole. He placed one circlet on Ara's head, then one on Daewon's. The crystals began to glow. The sensation was overwhelming. Daewon felt the bond expand, deepen, become something infinite. Ara's emotions weren't just feelings anymore. They were part of him. Her thoughts brushed against his like whispers. Her memories flickered at the edges of his consciousness, and he knew she felt the same from him. Everything he was, everything he'd been, everything he hoped to be, she could sense it all. It should have been terrifying. Instead, it felt like coming home. The priest smiled. The bond is complete. You are now joined before the ancestors, the people, and the stars themselves. The temple erupted in celebration, but Ara and Daewon only had eyes for each other. She reached up and touched his face. He covered her hand with his. "Hello, husband," she said. "Hello, wife," he replied. They kissed, and the bond sang between them. A harmony of two souls finally united. The celebration lasted 3 days. Music, dancing, food, and joy filled the palace. Humans and Veltharans mixed freely, barriers breaking down as they celebrated together. Ambassador Hyun got pleasantly drunk on Veltharan wine and gave a rambling speech about the power of love to bridge galaxies. Princess Yuna cried happy tears and claimed credit for the whole thing. Even General Nari approached Daewon to offer grudging respect. "You surprised me, human," she said. "I didn't think you had it in you." "I surprise myself sometimes," Daewon admitted. "Treat her well. She deserves happiness. I will. I promise." On the third night, after the last guests had finally gone home, Ara and Daewon stood on the balcony of their shared chambers. Their chambers. Not his or hers anymore, but theirs together. Earth was visible in the night sky, a blue dot among the stars. Daewon pointed it out to Ara. "That's home." "Or it was, and now?" she asked. "Now home is wherever you are." She leaned against him, and he wrapped his arms around her. Through the bond, they shared the perfect contentment of the moment. "What happens next?" Ara wondered aloud. "We've been so focused on getting to this point. What do we do now?"